Okay, I just did the most white thing ever, you guys. I was like bobbing along to the wait music. That's anyway. Hi, I'm Julie.
Hi.
This is hi, this is Wine and Reason. Today I have an amazing guest. This is Ricardo Oliveira. You know him and love him from side chats and from seeing him on Bad Tempered Badger. And yeah, his voice just is that sexy. He's not modifying it in
Ah,
any
okay.
way. I didn't warn you I was going to say that. I'm sorry. I should have.
Okay.
Um, I'm just objectifying your voice all over the place. I
That's fine.
apologize.
That's fine.
Thank you. All right. Uh, so first thing I have to ask you, Ricardo, is, given the nature of the channel, what are you drinking? Is it even remotely an okay time to be drinking where you are? I don't
Oh
even
yeah.
know.
I'm from Portugal, so anything after sunrise is time to drink.
Excellent.
Yeah, red wine. Always red wine.
Mm.
Sometimes some rum.
Modesty, yeah. I'm always a red wine person. Except for the occasional, cheap champagne, for whatever reason. And it's not even champagne, it's just like sparkling white wine. And even then I'm like the worst thing is a white wine hangover, right? Because of all the sugar
Yeah.
that's in white wine. Ugh, it's just gross. Yeah. Drink what you like. I'm not sorry. I was just about to tell everyone they should drink red wine. At least there's some antioxidants and good stuff in there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm drinking a very cheap table Cabernet Sauvignon right now, and I like it. Okay. So, we were just talking in the green room about how you and I kind of found each other in side chats because we have this shared ex-Catholic background, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and I should tell you, I know I talk a lot online about being an ex-Catholic. I was a neo-pagan for longer than I was a Catholic. Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked about that as much, frankly, because I'm more embarrassed by it. Like the Catholicism was pushed on me. The neo-paganism, that was all me. I just once I read the Bible and was like, this is some bullshit. I just went out and found other gods and goddesses in old mythologies to believe in and pretend to worship and stuff, and then
We've got a similar path, or somewhat similar path, because after so the Catholic faith, I spent a little bit of time with spiritualism, and then after that, I even tried Candomblé and Yoruba. So yeah.
yeah, no, right on. Yeah, it's hard to I found it very easy to go, probably too easy, frankly, to go from Catholicism to a pantheon because it was like, oh well, there's a saint for everything, so why shouldn't there be a god or a goddess for everything? Like that made complete sense to me. And what you said about spiritualism, I was completely convinced that ghosts were real, and I thought I had good reason. I thought I'd seen them. I didn't know what sleep paralysis was. Yeah, so that was the problem. Once I learned what sleep paralysis was, and I will say, and I'm going to ask you this question too, that the hardest thing for me, the biggest roadblock, I guess, for me in realizing that I was an atheist, the biggest stopping point was the no afterlife thing, because I was so convinced. I mean, I've lost a lot of people in my life, and it was rough realizing that I'm never going to see them again.
Yeah, I didn't lose that many people before I kind of put the idea of an afterlife aside. So I was kind of lucky in that sense. I did lose a very dear friend, and I've lost my grandfather, which was the major loss in my life, up to that point. But I kind of I kind of rationalize it in a different way, because even straight after Catholic losing the faith, let's put it that way, I can go in more detail in a bit, but after losing the faith, I kind of made up my mind that even if there is something after death, it's not going to be an afterlife because my body is not going to be there. So if there is a soul, then the soul is not me because it's not my body. It might be something. I won't question that. If there was a soul, it will obviously be something, but it won't be me because my body is not there. So I
No,
rationalize it that way.
that's an excellent point. Yeah. I remember talking to my mom, who is a very much a staunch Catholic, staunch Roman Catholic lady, goes to bed, falls asleep saying the rosary so often that we're constantly buying her new rosaries because she breaks them. Because she'll fall asleep with it and then roll over or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's who she is. And then my dad converted. He was raised kind of vaguely Southern Baptist. And then when he met my mom, he started researching Catholicism. And then he had, according to him, like a conversion experience where he was like, oh no, this is where I'm meant to be, kind of thing. So religion was never a casual thing in our household. My grandfather had been in seminary from the age of 13 until he was in his early 30s. He came out of seminary because he realized he didn't have a vocation. He was ostracized from his family. Okay. He met my grandmother. It's sorry to use loaded language, y'all, but I mean, it's a fucking miracle I was born or that my mom was born because he met my grandmother and then he wouldn't get married without his parents' blessing. Oh, okay. And she was from an Irish neighborhood and he was from the German Catholic neighborhood. So they're white Catholics in the 1930s. You think this would not be an obstacle, but to my grandfather's German parents who immigrated here from Germany, they were like, no, you're not marrying that Irish trash. And so they waited like 5 years before my great grandparents finally gave in and let them and gave their blessing for them to get married. It's nutty.
Religion is, as far as I'm concerned, religion is very, or it was more than it is now, but it's still very neatly tied or tied neatly with ethnicity.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you? I've been very lucky. I've been able to be honest that the sibling I'm closest with is one of my brothers. Which is funny because I've got 2 brothers and a sister, and the other brother is the one I don't even speak to. So it's hard and I don't want to dox anybody, right? So It's hard for me to be like, my older brother. Well, they're both my older brothers. That's what. Anyway, but the good one is how I usually put it. My brother, the good one. He's gone through a lot of weird religions. I mean, when we were being raised Catholic and into his early adult life, he was very Catholic. Then he met a Mormon girl, and she was, and he fell in love, and she was very adamant that they needed to be the same religion. Okay. And she came to mass with us several times. She tried. I will give her that. Like she did try, but she just didn't. It was so not what she was used to. And if you've ever been to a Mormon service, I hope you haven't, but I actually did 2 weeks of Mormon summer camp. It's messed up and weird, but so my brother ended up converting to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Later, he was an agnostic when he was in college, and then when the lady he's married to now, his second wife, and they've been married for well over 20 years, and she's awesome. It's a much better fit. She had a evangelical, like, born again experience, and my brother kind of got dragged kicking and screaming into that. And yet, like, when I told him I was an atheist, he was, I mean, I'm not going to say he was okay with that. It grieved him, and it grieved her, because they think I'm going to hell now. But he hasn't stopped talking to me. He hasn't treated me any differently. He's been very cool about it. And my sister knows, and she's not thrilled, but we just don't talk about it. That's pretty much how we deal with it, by not dealing with it, I guess. How is it with your family?
So we all deconverted from Catholicism, from Catholic Church.
Yay!
Yeah, I was the first one to jump out. um, and my mom followed about a year later. My sister
Oh,
kept going for a little while, and also then she just gave up. But my sister is what I call a traditionalist Catholic, in the sense that she got married by the church, and she baptizes the kids and does all of the wall marks of the religion. But in between, she doesn't even attend church or anything like that, not even the kids.
yeah.
But my mom, my mom, well, my parents and my sister, they are still following, or they are still adherent to the spiritualism. They follow the Kardec school, which sometimes creates a little bit of a, well, me and my awesome personality create a little bit of attrition because I won't drop it. I'd simply go like, nope, you're wrong. That's bullshit. And it can cause a few issues. But my mom learned to go like, okay, fair, I'm out. I don't want to talk to you about this anymore. So we kind of, there's a little bit of a fight, but there's not huge fights or anything like that. We still go along pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think, hey, you can be honest, you can live an authentic life with your parents involved. I think that's freaking awesome. I've said before that, my mom has dementia. My parents are 78. I am not putting them through. I mean, I'm going to be 43 soon. I'm not putting them through at the end of their lives, the anguish of that it would cause them. It would really cause them anguish if I told them I was an atheist. Like at this point, they're like, it's fine. You're Catholic. The Lord will lead you back when you're ready. It's no problem. And they've literally said this to me on more than one occasion. And so I just kind of, they're the only ones I'm being deceitful with. By not, I mean, it's lies of omission, but it's still lying. But I just don't. I think it would do more harm than good if they were younger. And my mom wasn't already, dealing with dementia just like my grandpa did, her father did. I wouldn't, I might have a different take on it, but yeah. I just, it sucks, and it's the ironic part is they think I'm the good one. Because it's so fucked up. Okay, because I am like the most, and I feel bad for my brothers and sister for this because they all became. My sister had a conversion experience and became an independent Baptist. My eldest brother is an evangelical Christian. My brother, that's one of my closest friends, is an evangelical Christian, and here I am, the heathen fucking atheist out here, and mom and dad think I'm the only one that stayed Catholic. And it's not fair. It's not fair to my elder siblings, but I don't know what to do. I'm like, you have YouTube. You could Google me. Like, they could find this. It would not be hard. But they, they just don't. So it's strange. I did want to tell you and ask you if you ever did this. Did you ever go to World Youth Day?
No.
Well, I had the opportunity. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I've never. I had the opportunity to go, but at that point, I was no longer that invested into the religion. So no.
Oh, good call. No, yeah, fair. I asked because when I went in 1990 or something, and and I met people from all over the world. The USSR had just broken up that year, so there were Russian Catholics there. Okay. There were and I met a bunch of kids from Portugal, and that was the first time that someone I didn't know greeted me by kissing me on each cheek, and it was this hot Portuguese boy, and I was like, okay, right, breathe. Don't. Yeah. It's nighttime. They can't see that you're blushing. It's okay. It's very not American to do that, and I was not prepared. But they were lovely. Yeah,
It's
no, they were absolutely lovely. And the young lady that was with, oh God, she was gorgeous too. The young lady that was with him was saying like, oh, this is just natural. It's what we do. It's
yeah,
what we do.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's
And I was
also
like,
not an
yeah,
English thing.
I was ready for a handshake. I was not ready for kisses.
Yeah, the two kisses or one kiss in each cheek is also not an English thing. I found out that the hard way.
Yeah. Oh, you found out the hard way?
Yeah,
There's a
because
story there.
when I got here, I was used to greet everyone with the two kisses, you know what I mean? And then I would do it,
Mhm.
and people were looking at me with funny eyes, and I was like, "What's going on in here?" So I had to find out
Oh,
the hard way.
you're like, I'm not harassing you. This is
No,
normal
it's
where
just
I
my
come
life.
from.
Yeah, it's
This
true.
is every day.
Standard.
Like, oh wow, yeah, that would be strange
Yeah.
and difficult. Yeah, I could see. Is it? I don't know. Culture is fun. Um, I'm gonna really quickly, yeah. Hi to everybody in the chat. I'm just I want to make sure that I don't talk over Ricardo, and we have a hard stop right before 4 because Critical Cripple Dave pushed his critical questions back so that when I pushed this back today, there wouldn't be a conflict. So everybody make sure and go to critical questions after this.
Cool.
And and Ricardo and everybody, don't let me get so lost in talking to the nice Portuguese man that I forget to stop. Okay, so having said that, all right. So yeah, so you were saying that that your grandfather was very religious.
Yeah.
My grandfather was extraordinarily religious. He, like I said, he was in seminary for a very long time, um, but he was a great grandpa. I I I I didn't realize until later uh, that he was very sexist, but he was born in 1918. Or
Mm.
no, I'm sorry, he was born in 1910. I'm sorry, my grandmother was born in 19. I'm sorry, I mixed them up. Um, so I, and he was born into this large Catholic family, and and there was this moment where the baby, the youngest one at the time that was an infant, my grandfather got to name him because at that point, my grandfather was the oldest of, I want to say, 13. Not the, I'm sorry, he wasn't the oldest. I'm sorry, I'm mixing that up too. Anyway, not the point. Point is, my grandfather was one of 13 children that survived to adulthood. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, so not all of them did, and one of them, this would have been in the teens of the last century, of the 20th century, became very ill as a baby. And granted, medicine was not what it is now back then, but his parents literally had the choice of, we take the baby to the doctor or we feed the other 12. And that was, I mean, because that was all the money they had. And so they chose to buy food, and the baby died. Now the baby might have died anyway. You're talking, we're not talking like great medical science at this point, but
Yeah.
like these are the kind of situations that people come out of, and I think it makes them, when you're facing that kind of adversity,
Choice.
something that's even hard for people like us to understand. you know I mean, I've almost died several times from illnesses, but I had good medicine on my side. So I didn't die from scarlet fever. I didn't go blind. I didn't die from rheumatic fever. I didn't have to miss an entire year of school, like they used to. And it's just, a lot of things are just so much. Anyway, I'm sorry. I've kind of lost
No.
track of this. The point is, the point is that I think we definitely see faith more pronounced in places that, places where life is really hard. And that makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me are the people in my own country right now and how nuts they are. I mean, like, according to, and this is a minority of folks, this isn't everybody, but like according to the Daily Beast, 12 Secret Service, hang on, I have a note. Yeah. 12 Secret Service agents have been removed from inauguration duty because they were found to have ties to right-wing militia groups. And it's like,
National Guard.
I'm sorry, National Guard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And only two of them have been confirmed to be with links to white supremacists.
Oh, two on the Daily Beast, I'm sorry. And then
Yeah.
later NBC said 12. So I don't know.
The other 10 may have been just improper text messages or comments. May have not been linked to white supremacists, or at least has not been confirmed by the general.
Thank you. That actually makes me feel a lot better. I feel very ignorant at this moment, like because everything is so bizarre, and here I am, speaking with someone who doesn't live here, and you know more about this than I do. It's and that's fine. You're awesome, but it's like, what is happening? I don't get it, and I don't want to get too far onto current events. We were going to bond over weird Catholic shit, and we're still going to do that. Everybody in the chat, don't worry, we're doing that. But thank you for the information. And but it's kind of that whole, going all the way back to Christopher Hitchens, like religion poisoning everything. So, but there's also so much. I mean, religion is a part of culture. So a question I have for you, Ricardo, is I felt really shitty when I realized, like when I was 17, I read the Bible cover to cover, and I was like, if this God exists, he doesn't deserve me. Fuck him. Because it was just basically, and I mean, by the way, I'm not an atheist because I was angry at God, y'all. I became an atheist many, 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 way too many years later. All right, to be clear. But I stopped being a Christian and a Catholic when I read that book, and I was like, this God hates women. This God is for slavery. I mean, all the usual arguments, right? Yeah. So, but at the same time, there's this cultural aspect to being Catholic. There are things that Catholics say, there are things that Catholics do. Like, as an example, making the sign of the cross, when an ambulance passes or something like that, or or you're driving past a Catholic church. My mom does that all the time, and I used to. So there's a lot of cultural stuff that happens, and it gets kind of murky. I had this weird feeling when I left the church that I was turning my back on my people on some level. Did you feel anything like that?
I might have in the beginning, yes. Just to contextualize a little bit. But in Portugal, it's so ingrained. So Catholic Church is so ingrained in Portugal that you literally don't have a town or a reasonably big village where you don't have a patron saint, and that there will be a party every year around the same date for exaltation of the patron saint.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of, it's almost impossible to be in Portugal without being confronted with the Catholic Church. That's basically impossible.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Although I was a little bit different for one simple reason. I stopped believing in the God of the Bible and on the Catholic Church before I actually left the Catholic Church. So I did spend some time still in church, still doing the work without actually believing what I was doing. So I was being a hypocrite. That's fine. I don't mind. I was young at that time, and I had other reasons to be there. But it was more of a personal reason. There was a personal relationship with someone in church that meant that I was okay of me carry on that work, which I didn't see as anything bad at the time. With my I don't know, 15, 16-year-old mind, something like that. I didn't see that as an issue, just so that I could maintain that connection with that person. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that I understand that. I was much more open-minded at that age myself. I was like, hey, I don't know, whatever you believe might be true. Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah,
It's fine.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
was a bit like that. So when I actually walked out and everything and put a stop to all of that, I had already been through a period where I was like, yeah, no, this doesn't work. Obviously, and not only I had read the Bible, I had read the Catholicism, what's the name of the in English? Catholicism, the Catholic book.
Is it just catechism in general, or
Catechism, yeah, exactly. The Catechism. I had read all of that. I had the
okay?
Concilium Second.
So something like maybe like this, or this one might. Oh, hang on, I got to cover up. My mother signed that. My mother had her name on this one. My mom gave me this.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, things like that. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I had read the Liturgia Dominicana. I had read the Concilium Secundo. I had read all
Mm,
of it. I had gone through Plato. I had gone through many of the arguments that were put forward and against God. So I was in a pretty good place to say, yeah, no, you're wrong. But I
yeah,
still insisted on carry on that work for other reasons. So I kind of had a period where um, it's like instead of going cold turkey, if this is probably a comparison that's going to make a lot of people go nuts, but instead of going cold turkey, I kind of win myself out of the religion. It's
there's
like
nothing wrong
addiction.
with that.
So
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. For years, Junk Shop and I would go to Easter Mass just because it made my mom really happy to see us there. And I not only was not, I was an atheist at that point, and for I think 4 years, we went every Easter, and I would go up and get communion, and I felt shitty doing it because I was like, I don't believe in this anymore. But at the same time, my parents were right there. So if I didn't get communion, then the question would happen, like, do you need to go to confession? It's okay if you do. This is when it is. Like, all of that would have happened. And it just made her so happy. But then we stopped when all of the cases of child abuse came out of I think Boston, and and several other places where the DAs were going, because we'd all known it was happening. Like, I remember being a child and knowing that that happened, but I had no idea how widespread it was. I had no idea that it was like from Australia to like everywhere that the Catholic Church is. And that was when Jung Shab and I sat down and we had a talk, and they said, excuse me, sweetie, I'm sorry. They said, I can no longer countenance this, even just with my presence, in good conscience. And I was like, I feel the same way. I can't either. So we stopped going. I'm still on their damn rolls though. I got to figure out how to get off of them.
oh
Yeah.
no, I'm out.
You're out.
Actually, yeah.
How did you manage that? Because I was confirmed, and I don't know. I know
When
a couple of people. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've been subject to latae sententiae, so I'm excommunicated.
Oh, okay. How did you manage that? That's tricky these days.
I've been a very, very, very naughty boy.
Ah, excellent. Okay, you don't. Again, like I said before we went on,
No,
don't
it's
divulge anything you don't want to. But fantastic.
um,
I
so
know Jen
uh,
Aldrich is. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so basically, I did some work for the Catholic Church, some research in relation to one of the miracles that happened in Portugal. That led to the beatification and later on the canonization of the children of Fatima.
Oh my
And
goodness. Oh
then,
God, my parents are huge, for lack of a better word, fans
yeah,
of the Fatima miracles. Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead, please.
and then I've rejected and recalled the work. So as of that moment, I was excommunicated by because it's a common it's a mortal sin. So
Absolutely, yeah.
rejection is so that one I'm pretty sure of it. So I've been sentenced latae sententiae, but I may also have been already been sentenced or passed. The sentence may have already been passed by the church. I'm not sure because I've not got in touch with them, and I don't care about it anyway. So
No,
even
that's
if it
fine.
was,
I believe it's their job to notify you, but I might
I've
be
been
wrong about that.
notified. Yeah, I've been notified of the latae sententiae. There's a letter,
Okay, that's
but
enough. Yeah.
yeah. But then they can do it another process called the Ferendae sententiae. But I'm not sure if they did it or not because as of that moment I couldn't care any less.
Exactly. I said it's weird to me that I sound so excited that like I'm so happy for you that you got excommunicated, and that sounds really, guys. If any of you in the chat have wherever Catholic, that's really a fucked up thing. It's kind of weird because there's no salvation outside of the church, right? So essentially, when the church excommunicates someone, you're damned. That's it. But hell doesn't exist, so it's not really a problem. But God, I love that. I love that you did scholarly work for them, and then you realized it was incorrect, and you came out and said so. For those of you who don't know, the Fatima children, these were, and Ricardo, you did the scholarly work. I just heard about this as a layperson, so correct me on anything that I get wrong. But just very briefly, there were 3 children who the Virgin Mary appeared to, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
several times.
yeah, several times, and she gave them information, basically prophecies about the future.
Yes, 3 secrets, one for each one of the children.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, how. And this is the interesting part to me because the church is pretty. I mean, they love a good miracle, right? I mean, if they can ascribe a miracle to something, they will, but they don't do it, just all over the place. They actually have investigators, and they
Yes.
used to have devil's advocates for the,
Yes.
process. Yeah. So how did they prove, what evidence did they have that these children weren't just making this up? Even maybe unbeknownst to them, because being raised in a very Catholic culture, I mean, I thought God spoke to me more than once when I was a believer. But it was just me.
Yeah. So in this case, the investigation started straight away. So I'm not sure if I'm going to remember the name of the bishop, but the kids were fully interviewed right there and then by the bishop at the time. I don't know if I'm going to remember the name of the bishop, but
Don't worry about it.
so
A bishop interviewed them, and this is an authority figure. This is a high authority figure, by the way.
Yeah. So
especially if you're just a kid. Like if you're just a kid in the Catholic, you might your parish priest, fairly well. That's the guy who takes your confessions and who administers the sacraments and all that stuff. Bishop is above that. So for anybody who doesn't know. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're doing amazing.
José da Silva, I actually remembered. So he was involved straight away. He interviewed one of the children straight away because that's the only one that didn't got sick. And then the other 2, they were interviewed after they recovered from the illness, or the first burst of the illness. So there was records right from the onset, and also on the final miracle. So on the 13th of October, 1997.
Yeah.
That's when the sun danced on the sky in front of 1,000 people. That then wasn't actually 1,000, were only 700, and then it wasn't really 700, more close to 200, and
Right.
there's only record for about 50 of them.
Yeah, and you get this strange, there's a name for this particular bias or yep. I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
I believe it's something like peer pressure. Someone says that it's seeing something, and then
Yeah,
everyone
yeah. I
comes.
mean, it's like
And you're
mass
right. There's a
hysteria.
specific, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I might be Dunning Kruger, but I'm not sure about that. Y'all can bitch me out in the chat if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's basically this idea that somebody. It's kind of like if you've ever been on a ghost tour, or you've been sitting around a campfire telling scary stories, and y'all get freaked out and spooked out, and you're just sure that that you're feeling things and something
yeah,
malevolent is watching from the woods. It's this thing that we do to each other because we're such social animals.
yeah. But there's two good examples that I usually give to contradict people that say that they saw things together with a lot of people.
Hmm.
Yawn. If you're in front of someone midway through a conversation and you yawn, even if you're not yawning, really yawning, but if you pretend that you're yawning, I
See,
guarantee
you
you
say it
the
one
other
more
person.
time.
Yeah, it is sympathetic yawning. And then the other thing is, if you are on a quiet place or fairly quiet place where people are not really paying attention to you, if you jump like if you've just been scared, people will also react to that. It is just human
Hmm.
nature. And
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
being involved in what is supposed to be the miracle, because no matter what people say, everyone knew that there was going to be a miracle at that point. The
Mhm.
children had advised that Virgin Mary was to give a message, or was to give a sign, not a message, a sign on that day. So much so that on the 13th of October to 1917, there was a what's the name in English? Just give me a second. There were people there, a purple legate. I think it's in English how it's called. So there was a representation of the papacy in Fatima to witness what it was supposed to be the message of, or the sign of the Virgin Mary. So there was quite a lot of record at that time. Um, Obviously, I wasn't there. I'm not that old, not even by a long shot.
No,
So
no, you're lovely.
I went back through things that had already been written. I went that we it's like your in the United States you have your capital library, I think it is. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so we
Well,
have
yes, the Library of Congress, but yes.
exactly the Library of Congress. We have
Yeah.
something like that in Portugal. It's called the Torre do Tombo, and that's where I spent about 3 months going through
Cool.
the handwriting notes of the people that investigated at the time. So
Oh, that's awesome.
and then I start realizing, oh, Lord, there's too many points here that don't add up. There's too many things here that don't add up, because we've got the initial report saying, oh, I saw this from this side to that side, and then corrections later on after the notes had been shared. No correction saying, oh, actually,
Mhm.
no, it was from this side to that side. So that kind of made me start
Yeah.
thinking a little bit, because at that time I was also a science student, so my inquisitive spirit was already been developed past
Good.
indoctrination. So I then interviewed a couple of people, but those interviews weren't run by me. I was just merely a person, a part of a team. But
Yeah.
during those interviews, I was noting that people were thinking in order to remember, and that kind of made me rethink all over everything again. So I've requested permission to interview a couple of more people, and I realized, no, this doesn't add up. This is not true. This person, because bear in mind that at that point I was only getting information as hearsay. So I was talking with a descendant of the people that saw the event, not the person themselves, because most of them had died, and
Hmm.
there were discrepancies that I was like, no, I cannot accept this. This is not factual in any way, shape, or form. This cannot be accepted as factual. But so I pulled out the part of the work that I did. That's what landed me in the
And
lab.
that's when
Yeah,
they gave you the weird Latin uh
yeah,
you've been naughty
yeah.
thing.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. That is awesome. Man, my parents I my father was so into that miracle for some reason, the Fatima children, and also Padre Pio. You know,
Yeah. Padre
you know,
Pio.
yeah, he had the stigmata supposedly and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, which, now I think about that and I'm like, this poor man had a really bad case of self-harm. Why?
Yeah.
It's, yeah. But that's amazing. Thank you for the detail and someone who really like got in and researched. I think it's interesting that, storytellers, right? I mean, human beings, we're all kind of natural storytellers. Some of us, more so than others, but it's how we've passed information, for forever. So it's like, I know that things, memories I have, sometimes when I retell them, if I've retold it and retold it and retold it, it becomes a certain way, right, in the
Yeah.
retelling. And then not so much like the game of telephone way, but actually it gets more specific in the retelling. And then if one of my siblings is like, I was there, that is not what happened, and their version of events can be completely different.
Yeah.
And it's why eyewitness testimony is terrible and all of that. But yeah.
There was something that one of the things that also made me a little bit more cautious was the fact that there were initial statements that were made. People recanted those statements, and that was kept as a secret. So very similar to state secret, or state secret, because it's within the Vatican. They keep that withheld, and it's not of public domain. But when you are in a small village like Fatima, which, well, it's not small now, but it was back then, if someone recanted a statement, that would be known by everyone in the village. So every one of the descendants of the people of the village would eventually also know about it. So when I was there and I was talking to people say, oh yeah, that family, they also saw it, or they said they saw it, but then they recanted it. And then there was actually factual errors on the statements, even from the papal legacy, the papal legate, where they were stating that there was a doctor, so a PhD present, that confirmed it, and it was a lie. There was someone with exactly the same name, but it was actually the son that was there. It was the doctor's son that had exactly the same name. So they felt like, okay, there's a lot of things here that don't add up, and I'm not happy with this.
I'm really glad that you had the guts to speak out and to say, no, this doesn't fit. This isn't, and define these inconsistencies and point them out. I think that's amazing. And I, for one, appreciate it. I know the church does not, but I do. It's, we're raised, just to hit on that Catholic culture a little bit more, we're raised to have such reverence for the Blessed Mother, right? I mean, she is, chosen above all women, right? She's really kind of all women get in Catholicism, because we're basically supposed to either be celibate and married to God, which is weird, or celibate and single, which is depressing, or sounds depressing. I mean, if you're ace, that's probably not a problem, but it would be for me. Or married and having as many babies as possible. And that second clause of that sentence is where I had the problem. Because I didn't see it. I'd watched my parents struggle, and I'm not. It's not that I'm not grateful. I'm the youngest of four, but my parents had more children than they could afford, and it was a struggle. Thank you, sweetheart. The wine fairy came and brought me wine. I love you. Okay, but yeah, it was. I mean, we weren't. We were way more fortunate than most, but my parents constantly fought about money. And my mother had serious skills. She went to business school in the 1960s after high school, and which means she can type ridiculously fast. And she would, at the time, back in the day, she was up on, all the newest stuff. And I think she could even take shorthand. It was crazy, like the kind of stuff that we don't even do anymore, but
Yeah.
she could do it. And instead of, there was always fights about money, tension about money, about there not being enough money, and yet she spent 60 hours a week at church. And there was resentment. I think all of us kids had this kind of resentment about, this isn't cool. Like you're always, every time we go to bed, you guys start screaming at each other about money, and yet the church is paying you $2.13 an hour for 20 hours a week, and they count the other 40 hours a week that you're there as volunteer work. It's like you could go get a job in an office and actually bring home money, but she wouldn't. But she was still gone, just like a working mom. So I don't know. Those are clearly my issues.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as cool as your story, which I like much better. But yeah, it's kind of how, religion can kind of just get in people's lives and genuinely mess with things, like your ability to, like I fell down the stairs when I was a kid, and I was supposed to have physical therapy, but my parents couldn't afford it. And I have back issues, like, to this day from that fall. And, it's kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, don't take this the wrong way, but you've got an extra problem on top of it because you're in America.
Yes.
And obviously you're Catholic, but Catholic, Mormon, or evangelical, it really doesn't matter, because America's got this one issue kind of threading through a lot of the problems that they have, which is the religion and the lack of social safety nets, and no one can convince me that religions. It doesn't matter which one, but religions in general in America don't have a big hand on maintaining that problem.
Yes, I agree with you completely, because what people do, because we have no social safety nets, as you just rightly pointed out, is that they go to church. They go to the churches for the help that they need. And so my mom would periodically have to go begging to St. Vincent de Paul, which is a charity named after St. Vincent de Paul, and she would have to go begging for them for, like, when for a crib if a new baby was born. And I think she had to do that for me, because by my parents, I was a surprise.
Okay.
I was like, I came along like 9 years after the twins. Like, mom kind of thought she was finished, and then whoops, no, hey, because Catholic again, no birth control. So anyway, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm so glad she had me. I'm so grateful. And my parents, they love me to pieces, but they're just, religion informs everything in their lives that makes them less compassionate and less loving than they could be. And that's what's so frustrating to me, because if you're cis, het, and Christian, they'll give you the shirt off their fucking back. If you're almost anything else, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like, it's awful. And I don't like describing my parents that way. I don't, because they're good-hearted people, but all of their bigotries and everything that comes out as awful when they speak now is all from their this religious bias that they have.
Yeah. But to just to clarify a point there, I'm not saying that anyone individually that belongs to a church will have a problem, or that
No.
that their nihilism is their own fault, because it's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, religions by their very nature will be sectarian. So it is part of how they survive, is to, we are better than them,
Yeah.
kind of thing, because that's the way that it works. And if you want to be as good as us, you have to be with us. Kind of, not that there's no chance for you to be as good as I am. It's not that you're worst, it's just you're not as good as I am. If you
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean. So that's a natural problem, or it comes naturally with any religion. That's why people that follow me on Twitter will see me go after a Pastor Locke, or
Yes,
um,
please. Yeah. Go after Pastor Locke all you want. That son of a bitch.
or
He lives in
something
my
like that.
state.
Yeah, because something like that, because you're it doesn't matter if he's doing it out of ignorance, or if he's doing it because he believes in it, or if he's doing it because he's an evil person. But fundamentally, what he's doing is creating divisions where there should be none. Um,
Mhm.
so that's the difference that I make. Yes, I can go directly at one person that represents a church, but I'm not saying that everyone that belongs to a church has a problem with it. Sometimes it's just people don't realize that
No.
actually they have been put through that process.
You are absolutely correct, and I will say that one really beautiful thing that's happened. We have to stop here in 9 minutes, so we'll stop before then so that we
Yeah,
don't run into critical cripples thing. But really quickly, I just want to say, yeah, the one beautiful thing. Thank you for saying that. It's not, yeah, like hashtag not every Christian. I get it.
yeah,
But also not every religious person by any means. I mean, almost all of the people except for this community online that Junk Shop and I know in our life and love and are friends with and care deeply for are religious
yeah,
on one level or another. You know, that I mean, we're pretty much the only atheists we know in person. Um, so there's that. But also, I do want to say the one lovely thing that finally happened with my parents is they stopped being uh, horrifically homophobic, and that's a big step. I don't. It's weird. It's weird to be like, good for you. You're not an asshole anymore. You know, I don't. Yeah, right. Like but honestly, it took them like actually meeting someone who happened to be gay,
yeah,
not knowing he was gay when they met him, and then just he was at their house a lot. You know, my mom cooked for him. He was playing D&D with my dad and my nephew and all their friends, and it was one of my nephew's friends. And my dad was like, "That's a good young man. I like him." And then after that, they found out he was gay, and because and it was random. He was like, "Oh, I got to go meet my boyfriend." You know, but thank you, Mr. and Mrs. See you later. And my dad actually had to sit down and rethink a lot of stuff that I've been, trying. I've been working on it for years, but he finally, yeah, he finally realized, okay, that this isn't what I thought it was, and I care about that young man, and he is not doing anything wrong. And I mean, my dad completely about faced on
yeah.
the issue of homosexuality. So it's one thing. It's one thing, but it's a good one. Ugh. Anyway, all right. So, any final thoughts, Ricardo? After I finish apologizing for my parents' homophobia.
No, no, no. You don't have to apologize. It's not something. First, it's out of your control, and then it's not something that it's giving the age and everything. It's not. I'm not going to say that it's natural, but it's expectable, or
Yeah.
something that one should expect that could happen.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My family is leaning towards the right a little bit too much for my taste. Also, things have been also becoming a little bit better because I since then moved to the UK, and then that conversation about migrants had to change a little bit by
Good.
force by force of circumstances. So
Good.
there you go, same type of victory based on circumstances. So but yeah, yeah, I understand what it means. I understand what it is to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, on that very positive note, Ricardo, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Well,
Everybody go to Critical Cripples channel, check out
yeah,
Critical Questions. I'll be in the chat there as
me
soon
too.
as we Yeah, there we go. And so will Ricardo as soon as we wrap up here. I know there were some questions that came through in the chat and I totally missed them. I'm so sorry. One I can say, grumpy old dude, nobody understands transubstantiation. Catholics just say they believe it. That's what I did when I was a Catholic. I don't know what to tell you. It made no sense. It's a mystery. We're just supposed to accept it as fact. So I did. That's all I can say. That's the one I remember. I don't remember the others. I am sorry that I missed those though. But thank you all so much. And remember, you can't find truth in wine, but you can find it in reason.